Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be going over the latest EU5 news. And in today's video, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be taking a look at the Tinto Talks number 10 Dev Diary from May 1st that focuses on trade and markets and stuff like that. Then we're going to be taking a look at the Dev Diary from 8th of May, which is focusing on, armies and the military and stuff like that. Which is also super exciting. But the most exciting thing for me that we're going to be checking out in today's video is going to be the first Tinto Maps Dev Diary, which came out on the 10th. And this is going to be a weekly, another Dev Diary related to EU5 that's going to showcase a bunch of maps from all around the globe every single week. Very, very exciting. But first, let's jump into this one. All right, here we are in Tinto Talks number 10 from May 1st, and as always, let's take a look at the header image first right here, which is, a view of the sort of trade nodes map mode in EU5, but I think they're going to be called the markets, so, it's pretty much the same thing, same, but different, but still the same, and this is a view of most of Europe that we can see right here. The only thing we really can't see is just, the southern points of Greece and Anatolia right here, Sicily, and, I would say half of Iberia, but these are all the markets, man, that are going to be featured in EU5. Now, of course, this map has already been changed a little bit since then. We'll get into that a little bit later, but the London market isn't here. This is the Antwerp market. We're going to jump into that. But, already it is looking pretty, similar to what we have in EU4, for example. Let's see, the changes are mainly that, Genoa and Venice and EU4 extend all the way in Italy. And over here, they don't. We got the Naples market. Ragusa is smaller compared to EU4. That's something I can notice right here. We don't have the Vienna market, so to say, basically located right here. Instead, we have a Prague one. The Rhineland one is called different. It's a coal market. I think it's a little bit larger. And interestingly, Genoa and Venice extend, north of the Alps right here into pretty much the southern portions of Germany. So that's pretty interesting to me as well. Aside from that, all of these other ones, they look pretty normal, pretty, similar to what we expect. Maybe Kaffa extending all the way over here is a little wonky, but I honestly I don't know how these things worked back then, and I trust the devs more than I trust myself. But obviously, man, this marketplace or market or sorry, trade node map mode, whatever, is looking very, very nice, and I'm excited to see how all of this will work. Will we finally have dynamic trade? Yes, obviously, and how different or how similar it is going to be to EU5. But very, very nice image right here. It has already been changed. We're going to take a look at that later. But now let's get to some reading. Stop. If you want to stay up to date with news and maps on EU5, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now, or I'll cancel EU5. What do you think about that? So, welcome to another Tinto Talks, the final of 4 on the economy system for a secret game with the codename Project Caesar. Very, very secret. Today we'll talk about all things related to trade, including markets, merchants, and trades. Very nice. This talk is heavy on tooltip screenshots and a lot of concepts to digest, so I recommend checking through it multiple times. Obviously, people have had such a hard time grasping the whole trade system in EU4 that I think the devs are being pretty careful with this. Will it be as difficult to grasp as in EU4? I guess we'll see. Maybe through gameplay it'll be easier. But markets, let's start with the markets themselves. These are dynamic and will change through the playthrough as countries can create new markets and disband their old ones if they so desire. So that's very, very cool, man. Going back to this image right here, something that is related to what I think we just read right here is this little portion right here, right? So this is a little portion within the Paris market, area or whatever that actually isn't in the Paris market itself. It's looking like it's either part of Bordeaux or London right here. So, that's, I guess, one way these things can change. Maybe, if you want to be dominant in the Ragusa market, you can grow it to, what it's looking like in EU4 or something like that. I'm excited to see how much you can change these. For example, let's say, you want to grow the pest market. Can you literally make all of Europe the pest market? Does it work like that? Do you even need this market here? Could it just disappear and all of the neighboring ones engulf it? Very, very, very interesting, but I already like the first sentence right here. Each market has a center in a location, and the owner of that location is in control over that market. Obviously, every location with a coastal sea zone will belong to the most fitting market, which depends on the market attraction of the market, the distance between the location and the market center, diplomatic factors, and more. And already we have a screenshot here of the Riga market. And, you know, obviously there are some things that we do understand that we don't understand. So this is obviously how attractive the market is to, you know, all the provinces or the countries located in or maybe even around it. Here we have, you know, a surplus of things, so wild game, tar, fur, beer, fish, and these are products that are needed over in the Riga market, mainly sturdy grains, sand, I guess, for glass making and stuff like that, wine, fine cloth, gold. So yeah, very interesting. I'm liking the simplicity of this right here. Obviously, we got the price. This is probably an increase, a decrease in price. I don't know what this means right here. I guess we'll find out. And here we have the most powerful merchants. Maybe this can be compared to something like trade power or trade efficiency from EU4 or something like that, you know? So the Sweden has the most merchant power. They're using full capacity. Then we got the Hanseatic League, the Livonian Order, the Bishopric of Oslo right here, the Teutons. So yeah, this is pretty much, you know, control over that market. Once again, comparing it to EU4, this is how it's looking like in EU5. And obviously, you know, from this first screenshot right here, I think everything that we're being shown is pretty easy to understand just from a simple glance. A very clear, you know, simple descriptions. Everything is cool right here in this screenshot, at least in my opinion. A market has merchants who have power depending on buildings and maritime presence in that market, and a merchant capacity which depends on the infrastructure for trade that country has in the market. The merchant power impacts in which order exports from a market are executed. As there is not an endless supply of goods in the market, the merchant capacity impacts how much goods the merchants can ship. All right, so what is this? Merchant capacity in Riga for the Hanseatic League specifically. So Hanseatic contour, I don't actually know what that means in Riga. So this is, you know, giving us a merchant capacity. Maybe these are like merchants or buildings. Sorry that I don't know what contour means. And this is obviously some modifiers right here. Commercial Advisory Council, maybe, you know, government reforms or ideas or missions or national focuses or stuff like that. Maybe this is, you know, monopolies once again related to estates and stuff like that. So these down here are modifiers. These right here are, you know, flat increases and stuff like that. So that's why it's like 4.27 for the Hanseatic League right here. This is the source of the Hanseatic League's merchant capacity in Riga. Very cool. As you can see in the market screenshot, every good has a local price and a supply versus demand value as well. Let's take a look at the beer price in the next tooltip. So this is like, you know, jumping in specifically to beer right here in this screenshot right there. So the market price is 1.48. It changes by this much each month towards the target price of 1.51. This is the base price, so 2 modified by minus 24.3 due to an effective supply of 15.81, an effective demand of 10.37, and a price stability of 20%. So, you know, already, you know, getting past these simple things, we're already getting into, you know, more complex territory. You know, it's time to, you know, we got to understand how this whole thing works. So, you know, that is the base price, but the target is 1.51. It decreased due to this. You know, we have this much beer. This is how much beer people want. So that's why this is the price. And, you know, price stability is a whole different modifier, I guess, that we're going to see explained pretty soon. Price changes every month towards the target price, which depends on the supply and the demand of the goods in the market and the current price stability. Price stability can change through the ages as well. So yeah, I guess I'm pretty excited to see what price stability depends upon. Supply and demand. The supply of each good in the market depends on several factors. The output from RGOs, the output from buildings, base production, burger trades. So what is base production? Some goods like clay, lumber, sand, and stone are produced in every market without the need for specific RGOs, even if an RGO with that raw material can produce much more, and there are buildings that can be built to provide these as well. Also, your burgers will trade on their own if they have the capacity to do it. They will attempt to address needs within the market and can trade in a slightly shorter range, thus enriching their estate. There are laws and privileges that impact them, like trade monopolies estate privilege that the Hanseatic League has granted in the earlier screenshot, which reduces their own merchant capacity by 25% to increase the capacity of the burgers by 100%. So yeah, there's obviously, you know, various policies that you can enact that maybe, you know, in some scenarios like this, for example, here, you want to make your burgers more powerful rather than your country itself or something like that, if I'm understanding it correctly. So what about demand? This is primarily from the maintenance, input, and construction of buildings, recruiting and maintaining armies and navies, and the demands of the population, but there are more sources as well. Obviously, simple enough to understand. Of course, trades themselves impact supply and demand and as well. You can use your merchant capacity in a market to either export a good from that market or import a good from another market. Of course, that market needs to be within your range, which is not world spanning in 1337. Obviously, you know, you can't trade, let's say, from Pest to Beijing or something like that. I mean, theoretically you could, but, in a gain sense and stuff like that. A trade is a variable amount of goods shipped from one market to another market, purchasing it for the local price in the exporting market. The longer the distance between the markets, the more capacity each good will require to ship, and higher the maintenance costs will be. Okay, Yoda. Trades have an impact on the land location they are in before leaving the market, and the first one they enter in the importing market, giving boost in the development of them over time. A trade always has to trace a path on a map. So, some of these earlier things were simpler to understand, at least for me. However, for this right here, the exporting goods from this market to that market, goods shipped and stuff like that, this is something that I personally, have to experience in-game to really understand, whereas, for example, everything else so far is, clear to me just from theory, so to say, whereas I think I'm going to have to put this specifically right here in practice to sort of understand how it works. We got another screenshot right here of the tar trade good. So these merchants are from the Kingdom of Sweden, traded, desired amount to trade. So yeah, I guess that's the price in the Riga market, exporting, using merchant capacity. So yeah, obviously, this merchant capacity, man, at least some of these guys right here that, it was like 2 and 0 and 4 and stuff like that. It is pretty valuable because this is already using up quite a lot of the merchant capacity. So importing through London. Yeah, obviously we're making money on this. So it's a good, it's a good idea right here. There are also sound tolls if you pass the Oresund or the Bosphorus to consider. Yeah, this is something that was expected as well, and I think it's a very, very nice addition. It's going to be super, super cool to do stuff like this regarding tolls with merchant republics and whatnot. Diplomacy and trade. There are many diplomatic factors that impact the trade and market mechanics of Project Caesar. First of all, you can deny market access to a nation owning a market, which will reduce the attraction of their markets on your locations, but also make anyone with merchants in those markets upset you. So this is, I guess, maybe similar to the embargo system that we have over in EU4, which really isn't that developed in my opinion. You can also request and or offer market access preference, making it likelier for a country's locations to belong in a certain market. Interesting. So maybe you're doing like a tall trade republic playthrough as Venice, and maybe there are some minor nations like Ragusa or Albania or something like that that are in, for example, the Ragusa trade notes. So you do some of these things with them. They enter the Venice market, which may be, more beneficial to you. And like that, the Venice market, for example, expands over here. I guess we'll have to see if it does work like that. If you dislike paying sound tolls, you can always try to ask for exemption for it through diplomacy with the country controlling the strait. So this is good if you have allies controlling straits and stuff like that. Some countries have isolated themselves completely, so you need to negotiate a specific exemption to allow you to export or import from their markets. Yeah, this is something very cool. I guess maybe it would relate it to something like Japan, for example. There's also the possibility to embargo a country, which would block the merchants from that country to trade in your markets. It's also not to be allowed to move through your country. Of course, this is a legit CB, so use with care. Yeah, very cool. So, this isn't embargo related, but this is. It works a little differently. I like that a lot. Other aspects to trade. Each market can have specific goods banned for export or import, with one common example being that Muslim markets will ban import and export of wine, beer, and liquor. Yeah, this is the exact example that I just thought of myself while reading this right here. So I think it's very cool that something like this is featured. And I think, if you're going for a small nation trade heavy focused gameplay, these are things, all of these things right here that are seemingly minor that you will have to consider. We'll see how important any of this is right here when you're playing a huge country. We mentioned in earlier Tinto talks that markets will have stockpiles so that surplus can be stored for a rainy day. There are buildings that will increase the amount that can be stored. There's also food in the markets, with prices adapting to the supply and demand of food as well. We got another screenshot right here of the food stockpile in the Riga market. So these are, I guess, the top 5 food producing provinces, and these are the top 5 food consuming provinces. So yeah, pretty simple right there, man. There are also automation options where you can assign trading completely to the AI. You can also lock some trades so that the AI will not interfere with them. Now, this is probably one of the most important things, for me at least, that we've gone through in today's Dev Diary. Obviously, when starting off as a small nation, man, let's say, for example, I don't know, maybe even a super small one like in the HRE, obviously you're going to be doing most of these things yourself, right? You're small, you're not going to be doing that much wars, you're going to be limited with your expansion opportunity, so you want to maximize what you do during peacetime and in other scenarios yourself, so you're going to be finicking with this stuff yourself. Maybe you're even going to be doing it as a medium country, for example, the Teutons right here yourself, but maybe not that much. Let's say some of the less important things you hand off to the game to take care of you, and the more important things you do yourself. And then, what I'm assuming is that I think as huge countries, let's say maybe Hungary even right at the start, or maybe England or someone like that, maybe you're immediately gonna let the AI, the game, do everything for you, so you don't focus on those things. Hopefully they'll set up the optimal scenario for you. Maybe if you have shortages or something like that, you're gonna deal with that personally. But I think as large nations or very large nations, you're mostly not gonna be focusing on this. Maybe you are in the early portion of the game, like first, I don't know, 20-30 years, but after that you're gonna be handing this off to AI. Let's not call it AI, let's say, to the game or whatever, that'll deal with it for you, which is super, super exciting for me to see, mainly in terms of less micromanagement the larger you are. So, obviously, the smaller you are, the more you focus on everything yourself. The larger you are, the more you gotta deal with the grand scheme of things. So the less you have, to focus on stuff like this. I mean, let's be real, man. If you're like a count or a duke or something like this in the HRE, you might be involved in some of these things right here, realistically speaking, from real life. But man, if you're the emperor of some super massive country, let's say a Byzantium that's got the Eastern Roman Empire borders, the emperor is not going to concern himself with how much bread there is, in a certain stockpile or whatever. That's a job for someone else. So I'm liking everything that we've seen from the final, economy-focused dev diary right here out of these four. Obviously, this is going to be expanded later on as well. Lots of things pretty simple for me to grasp, especially, whereas, like I mentioned, some things I'm going to have to figure out through gameplay. I know some of you guys are way smarter and you know all of this and you know how it's going to work immediately, but yeah, some of us, man, we're just going to have to play through it a little bit. So yeah, that was the first dev diary right here that we have for today's video. With all that said, we can close this tab right here and jump into the first dev diary that's focused on military matters. So let's start off by taking a look at the artwork right here. As always, this is obviously a battle between England and France, and it's well, as any artwork that we've seen so far, looking very, very cool. Now let's get into this. Welcome to another Tinto Talks, and we're now up to the 11th of these about this super secret game. This time we talk about military matters and the differences between levies, mercenaries, and regular armies. But first, a little promo on Winds of Change. Get it if you haven't already. Military organization. While there's a very large number of different types of units, they all belong to one of four different categories: infantry, cavalry, artillery, or auxiliary. So that's a new addition for EU5. Infantry is usually the bulk of most armies, and the other categories have specific roles in a campaign. The size of a regiment varies over time, with the earliest infantry regiments using 100 men, while at the end of the game there are around 3,200 men in each infantry regiment. So that's pretty interesting right there, right off the bat. In EU4, for example, for the entirety of the game, it's 1,000 dudes in a one regiment or whatever you want to call it. So an interesting change here immediately. Cav, artillery, and auxiliary units have different sizes. Okay, we can also categorize a regiment as either a levy, a mercenary, or a regular regiment. Obviously, two of these are already featured in EU4, and levies are featured in in Crusader Kings and in Imperator, for example. Any army can freely rearrange those into any stack they want and split up the regiments as the player sees fit. So if you want half of a mercenary company in one army and the other half in another army, then that is perfectly fine in the game. Awesome, just like it was in EU4 before, the whole mercenary system got revamped. All right, we can see a screenshot right here. This is a unique cavalry unit from the first stage that some cultures have access to. So we got horse archers. Obviously, okay, this is what we need in order to, build one regiment or whatever you want to call it. Leather, horses, and weaponry. This is required for maintaining them. I guess this is monthly or something like that. And then we have statistics. So we got maximum strength. I guess that's the max size of the regiment. Then we got combat power, which I think is going to be sort of like combat ability. Frontage, I don't know what that is. Sorry, boys, I'm not up to date with military terms. So we got morale damage done, unit weight per strength, monthly damage from attrition, food storage, food consumption, movement speed, combat speed, initiative, flanking ability. So some familiar modifiers and some unfamiliar modifiers as well. Obviously, these guys are from the steppes, so maybe this is something Cossack related, and nations that have the Cossacks will have access to horse archers, or maybe it won't be Cossacks, maybe it'll be hordes or something like that. I guess we'll have to see. Levies. First of all, we have levies where you can raise your able-bodied fighting men into a fighting force. This provides you with a lot of people who can fight for you, but the levies have a few slight drawbacks. Obviously, in the early game, we're going to be utilizing these guys quite a lot, so pay attention here. First of all, you can only raise them when you're at war or facing rebels. Secondly, when you raise your levies, those pops you raise them from are decreased in size to represent the pops going off to war. Excellent. Obviously, this was something that was expected. I think it's going to be a lot harder to manage, man. That's just me. And any dead men in a levy is population permanently lost, obviously. Speaking of that, levies do not spawn with any experience to speak of, and you have no direct control over the types of units you get. Another slight drawback is that levies do not reinforce during a campaign either. A province where the levies have been raised will also produce less food and raw materials, alright? So let's say you raise, like the screenshot right here, 12,212 of these guys. Then you go fight a battle, you've lost 2,000 of them. They don't come back. You got, 10,212 or whatever, right? So that's pretty interesting right there. Obviously, no control over the type of units. And obviously, these guys, because they're fighting, they won't be working there. So obviously, they'll produce less food and raw materials, pretty expected. You can either raise all of your levies or from any province individually, so not a location, a province specifically. Raising able-bodied men in the Kingdom of Sweden will get us 12,000 men. Very cool screenshot right here. Basically, the amount of guys that we get from each, what you call it, province or whatever. And that's pretty much the only explanation we have on levies so far. Obviously, we'll go into detail on this later on, but for now, let's move on to mercenaries. There are many mercenary companies available in the world, and each area has at least a few possible to recruit. However, these are not endless free manpower, as other nations may be recruiting them before you can. Interesting, very, very interesting right here. A mercenary company signs up for at least a 2-year contract, but you can extend the contract if you so desire. So obviously working way better than EU4 already. More on how mercenaries can be recruited in a later talk. Okay, so very little on mercs right here, but to me the most interesting point right here is other nations may be recruiting them before you can. So let's say you're playing in the Balkans as Serbia, and let's say there are, 5 mercenary companies operating within that region right there. So maybe Hungary is doing a war versus someone and has recruited some of those guys because they're close by. They've gotten 2 of them. Then you declare war on, whoever else is located right there on Biz. Biz has recruited 2 merc companies. You're only left with 1. The only one you can recruit, so you get it. You can't get the other guys. You're already fighting them and whatnot. That's very, very interesting to me right there. And then finally moving on to regular regiments, which I think these guys will be able to be recruited later on. Your regular army consists of the regiments that you do not want to disband, and they require manpower to recruit. This recruitment cannot be done everywhere though, as you need special buildings to allow recruitment of military units. Usually these are the same type of building that also provide you with manpower. As the ages go by, you go from only some special buildings providing a minuscule amount of manpower to being able to build conscription centers in your core culture locations. Core cultural locations. Interesting right there. Moving on to manpower. Speaking of manpower, in Project Caesar, this is permanently generated by buildings. And now you may ask, why do we need manpower when we have pops? Well, for us, manpower represents the more or less semi-trained men that can be used in a military force. And what is important, whenever a regiment loses strength, be it from attrition or combat, you will lose pops as well. So yeah, I guess the manpower, the way I see it here, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a portion of the population of trained or semi-trained guys, right? So if you got 100,000 people and let's say 20k manpower, which I don't know, it seems unrealistic, but yeah, just bear with me here for a second. And 20k manpower, those are the guys that are capable of doing the fighting, trained or semi-trained or whatever you want to call it, right? So I guess that's the way it works. This is a unique building for Mongol steppe hordes, the Kurultai. So yeah, it gives us plus 50 monthly manpower. We can recruit regiments there. This is what we need to build it, and this is required to maintain it, I guess. Interesting. One other aspect to take into account when it comes to manpower is that Project Caesar does not have force limits, but instead you're limited by how many regiments you can maintain. Every regiment requires some manpower each month to maintain the current level of troops. It also requires a fair amount of goods each month, and if it does not have access to it, morale will drop and it will not be able to reinforce or maintain its current strength. So I was a little worried when they mentioned stuff like this earlier on, but with this explanation right here, I do think it's pretty realistic. We'll see how it works out in practice. As you may have noticed in some of the screenshots above, units do have a fair bit of unique attributes. This is mainly this right here. There are some common ones for your entire country. Discipline, which impacts damage taken and damage done. Military tactics, which impacts damage taken. Army morale, which impacts how long your armies are willing to fight before breaking. So all of these familiar from EU4. And infantry, cavalry, artillery, and auxiliary power, which impacts damage done for that category. So we can, sort of relate this to a combat ability from EU4. I guess it's called power in EU5. Maybe it's similar, maybe it's the same, maybe it's different. There's also the army tradition, which is gained primarily from the average experience of your armies, which can be increased by drilling them and impacts the morale and siege ability of your armies, while also slowly pushing you towards a land on the land versus naval societal values. Interesting. So maybe the more army tradition you have, the harder it is to get navy tradition up or something like that. I don't know. That is not everything related to military, as we have a talk about the navies, I'll talk about logistics, and I'll talk about our combat system planned as well. So yeah, Navy's logistics, combat system, and military for, Dev Diaries focusing on combat, or whatever you want to call it, just like we had the 4 ones focusing on the economy. Next week, however, we'll be back with something completely different and rather new and unique features. So that's going to be tomorrow. You're going to be seeing this video on the 14th. This Dev Diary related to this is going to be dropping on the 15th. So yeah, I'm liking everything I've seen so far right here in this Dev Diary, man. Pretty simple explanations, a little bit on everything. And it was interesting for me to go through this. I want to learn more about mercs. Definitely, we didn't get a lot to this. Levies, I think we can all understand how these guys work by now. And, regular armies, regular regiments is something we're going to have to dive a bit more into, even though they were explained quite a lot. I'm interested in seeing when you can start recruiting them, how you can start recruiting them. But I'm most excited about simply jumping into a game and seeing, how you progress from levies or mercenaries, or levies and mercenaries, to more regular regiments. Will you be able to stop recruiting levies at a certain point? How will the mercenary companies develop and stuff like that? I think all of that is going to be super, super interesting to check out. Obviously, I didn't go through the dev comments on the previous Dev Diary. You can check that out for yourself if you want to. I'm also not going to go into the dev comments on this one either. We're sort of, running low on time today because we have 3 different things to check out and analyze and stuff like that. But there you go. That has been our first Dev Diary focused on military matters, so to say. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the next one right here. The first Tinto maps, which has given us a first look at the HRE, which I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for. So yeah, let's see what it's all about. All right, here we are in Tinto maps number 1, and first we're gonna go through some of these things right here, and then we're gonna jump into taking a look at the images right here. But there's a little sneak peek for you guys that we're gonna take a look at very soon. So basically, hello everyone, and welcome to the first post of Tinto maps. This is a new weekly series that will be running about the top secret game Project EU5. Let me introduce myself before I continue, as some of you may get to know me from the development of the latest EU4 DLCs, but I might not be as well known to everyone as Johan. I'm Pavia, the content design lead at Paradox Tinto, which I joined in 2021. Before becoming a video game developer, my background was a historian. That's always nice to hear, which led me to work on a PhD in medieval history. That's also very cool to hear, which I finished in 2020. Beside that, I've spent several thousands of hours of my life playing Paradox Grand Strategy games since I discovered and started playing EU about 20 years ago in 2004. What this new series will be about is quite straightforward. Each week I'll be sharing you through maps of a new different region so you can have a look at them, and we will receive early feedback because, as you may already know from Johan's Tinto Talks, there is still a lot of work in progress stuff ongoing. That is awesome, man. This is probably, honestly, some of the coolest things I've heard about, the game so far, receiving feedback on maps, which is pretty much what this game is all about. About the feedback, we'd like you to take into account a couple of things. The first is that we've worked really hard to gather the best sources of information available to craft the best possible map. We used GIS tools with several layers of historical map sources from academic works, geographical data, administrative data to help us ensure that desired quality. So we would appreciate getting specific suggestions backed by these types of sources, as others, let's say a Wikipedia map or a YouTube video with no references, may not be reliable enough. The second thing to comment on is that sometimes a certain decision we made was an interpretation over an unclear source, while sometimes we have just plainly made some errors when crafting this map, which on a 30,000 location map is a normal thing, I guess. I'll let you know when any of these happen, and I'm also going to ask for your understanding when an error or bug is found and confirmed as such. with those forwards said, let's start with today's region, the Low Countries. This is what the political map looks like. All right, man, let's open the large image right here. All right, yeah, this is not the same one. This is it right here, baby. This is it right here. So that is our first look at the Low Countries right here, everyone. And I know not a lot of you guys are focusing on Holland and Flanders and Brabant when everyone else was focusing on, and when looking at this image right here, man, is the HRE right here and the border war that we have going on in France. So lots of familiar nations to you guys, man. Munster, Trier, Liège, for example. We got Cologne right here with this border war, Berg as well, Dortmund, but a lot of unfamiliar nations, or maybe not nations that are featured in 1444 in EU4, for example, such as Mark right here, or whatever that is, or this Lude right here that we need to zoom in to find out what that is. But it's looking very, very nice, man. Extremely border gory. Shout out Voltaire, you know what I'm saying. And we have a very nice view of this river right here. Is that the Rhine? I think it is. And yeah, obviously the map is looking very, very nice. And the main thing for me right here, we are fairly zoomed in, and it is still fairly opaque, which thankfully means, once again, a confirmation of the no zoom in from political to terrain map mode. I want the colors to stay like this to the max level of zoom, you know? So it's already very nice to see, man. Super, super high detail, and I'm loving the border war. It makes me very excited for HRE gameplay. I know a lot of people hate the HRE, one of my favorite regions to play in the game. So this is the regional situation in 1337. The counties of Hainaut, Holland, and Zeeland are ruled by William of Efsen, who is married to Joanna, daughter of Duke John III of Brabant. Another John, the Duke of Luxembourg, might be the strongest power, as he's also the king of Bohemia. The county of Flanders is the wealthiest country in the region, controlling such important cities as Bruges and Ghent. Up north, we have other interesting countries, such as the Bishopric of Utrecht right here, and the Republic of Frisia right here. You might notice that we're using a dynamic custom country name for them, the Frisian Freedom. That's very, very cool right there. So yeah, that's pretty much an explanation of some of the more important nations located right here. Obviously, this is mainly focused on the Low Country guys. That's why there's no mention of any of these guys right here. I think for this specific screenshot, they just happen to be here. I guess these guys could have like blocked off everything that's not in the Low Countries right here, which isn't, I guess, relevant to the screenshot. But yeah, these guys right here are what this image is sort of centered around. Obviously, you can take a look at everyone else that's located here anyway, because they're in the picture. But moving on to some of the map modes, really, we don't have a lot to say about these. It's just analysis. So this is the location map mode. So for example, if we go back to Holland, which is, for this region, a fairly large, what do you want to call it, country. They're pretty much, this is, their outline right here or something like that. So this right here would be Holland. These are the locations that they own. And yeah, that's the location map mode. We had a fun bug for some time. Antwerp, which is right here, didn't have any pixels connected to the sea, which we found because we couldn't build any type of port building there. There's a happy ending, as the bug has already been corrected, and Antwerp can finally have a proper port. So that's awesome right there, man. Now, before I come back to this location map mode, let's move down to the province map mode right here. Really, there's nothing to say about this. We're just looking at the provinces, right? So let's take a look at, for example, I guess this would be an area right here. I guess these different colored ones would be areas. Now, let's say this right here is the province of North Holland, right? So this, I guess, would be it right here. These dark outlines, I guess, or what you call it, country borders, nation borders. But this right here, I'm guessing, is North Holland. Now, if we move back up here, we can see that these four locations right here are in the province of North Holland right here. And for example, we got South Holland right here. Then these ones in here would be a part of South Holland. Now, what I wanted to get back on this, the province map mode, is I don't really see the point of these colors. Like, what's the point of having such similar colors in two different provinces right next to each other, but also very, very different ones? I'm guessing these colors are randomly given, and that's why it's sort of turning out like this. But for me, for example, what would work way better, I think, I'm not a content designer or a UI designer or anything like that, or a map maker or anything, but I think, man, just having all the provinces in the all the locations in the same province be the same color would be way better, and just with these tiny outlines between them, very, very faint outlines. So for example, let's say we take North Holland once again, which are these four as far as I can tell, just make them all like, for example, this color. And then you take South Holland, which is right here, make them all this color, for example, right? So then you know, when you're in the province view, you can still see the locations overlaid because they're all the same color, but by the little faint borders and the names that you will have appear in the location view, you will know that they are all part of the same province, even though you can individually distinguish the location. So I'm not a fan of this map mode for that reason. I'm going to be honest. I don't think in this map mode maybe you don't need to see the country borders that clearly. Maybe it's just, you know, important for something else. And I do think the colors don't make any sense, because if we take a look at West Friesland right here, all of these are in the same province, but they have completely different colors for no reason. And then all of these right here are in different provinces, but they have the same colors or similar colors, right? So that's why I think these colors are given out at randomly, and it really doesn't make sense. Sure, it does help us distinguish between them very clearly, but I don't think there's a need for that. Just make all of West Friesland right here this color, and like I said, make all of North Holland this color, and it's very easily distinguishable. Maybe the location and province view can be merged even into a single map mode. So yeah, obviously, you know, the provinces are great. You can't really tell them apart that good because the countries are overlaid so hard on top of them, but I guess once you click on them, they'll be highlighted or something like that. So yeah, these two are pretty hard to read, in my opinion. This probably has to be a nightmare for colorblind people as well, if I'm being honest. And yeah, those are the location and province view map modes of of the Low Countries. Obviously, extremely border gory, and look at how tiny some of these are. These guys are probably like some of these as one country, man. It's going to be interesting to play these guys for sure. Moving on to the terrain map modes, which are climate, topography, and vegetation. So we can see oceanic and continental climate on this one right here. We can see the topography right here, coastal, you know, marsh, flatlands, hills, and stuff like that. And then we can see the vegetation, grasslands, farmlands, forests, woods, and whatnot. So yeah, this, let's say the province of North Holland right here is an oceanic marshland grassland. That's how that's going to be described, you know. And you know, a province right here is going to be a continental hill with forests or something like that. You know, that's how you got to take a look at it. Way better than EU5, way better. I like these map modes. I'm loving already, even with my critique on the initial two ones. So a little more to say right here. We're aware that the Netherlands look differently in the 14th century, obviously, as several land reclamations took place during the late medieval and early modern periods, but we're using a 20th century version of the map for the sake of consistency. I don't have a problem with this. I don't think anyone else should. Most of the regions throughout the world would look quite different from nowadays, and documenting these changes, especially the coastline shapes, would be a non-trivial problem to resolve. As a side note, we've already removed Flevoland from it and have already identified some other modern ones that slip through, and will eventually remove them as well. Yeah, this is you know, good to hear. I don't have a problem with anything right here. Good job on the devs and stuff like that. Next, we have the culture map mode, a very interesting one. We can see the Frisian, Dutch, Flemish, Picard, Walloon. I don't know what this one is. Rhinish right here, Low Saxon, I guess. And yeah, that's the culture view right there. The stripes mean that there are pops of different cultures inhabiting in those locations. Also, the German and French cultures are work in progress. We'll show you a proper version on later Tinto maps. So yeah, man, obviously it's pretty simple. This is Dutch right here. These stripes right here mean that it's mixed Frisian and Dutch. These stripes right here, mixed Flemish and Dutch. Mixed Walloon, and I guess these guys right here, I don't know what that is. Mixed Picard and Walloon. Yeah. Very simple, very nicely represented. I'm liking the culture map mode quite a lot. Then we have the religion map mode in 1337 for some reason. I do think that's pretty funny. Obviously, all of this is Catholic. Does this, you know, these slightly different colors right here mean anything? I don't think so, honestly. I think it's just related to the terrain or something like that. And then we have a raw goods map mode right here, which is obviously location dependent. We got fish, salt, pearls, sand, livestock, wool, horses, clay, fruit, stone, iron. I don't know what that is. Fur, yeah, wine, gems. Yeah, those are some of the ones I can notice. Wheat right here, lumber. So yeah, alum. What is alum? I don't know what alum is, my bad. But yeah, just think of this as the trade goods map mode in EU4. It's as simple as that, but it's raw goods in EU5. Goods get regularly swapped around here and there to have a balance between geographical and historical accuracy and gameplay purposes, so take this as the far from final current version of them. Yeah, obviously something like that is expected. It will be, finalized later on. And then an additional map for this week, just like I mentioned for the first Dev Diary that we took a look at the markets at, we can see that we have reinstated a Low Countries market centered on Antwerp after doing some balance tweaks that made it more viable. So yeah, that is pretty much the change right here. So yeah, I guess this striped province in the market view is the center of that market. So obviously this is Antwerp and this is Cologne right here. So yeah, that's pretty cool to see right there. And those are the first maps, man, or basically the first region that we've taken a look at some of the more important map modes that it features. Yeah, very, very exciting. I love taking a look at the Low Countries, but quite interesting to me as well, like I mentioned at the start, is our sort of first look at the political view in the HRE and the situation in France as well. And yeah, those have been all of the maps for the Tinto maps #1. This one dropped on May 10th. That was a Friday. So the next one we should expect right here on the 17th, which is going to be at the end of this week. And I'm very excited in taking a look at the next region right here. I would definitely love to take a look at France quite a lot, Northern Italy, the rest of the HRE. Those are the regions I'm mainly interested in. I hope that you have a nice weekend. Next Friday, we will travel down south to Iberia. So obviously, once we go to Iberia, the political situation is going to be pretty familiar to us, pretty much exactly the same like in 1444 almost. But yeah, I'm interested in seeing the rest of these maps, specifically in Iberia. Not so much the political one, but yeah, the rest of these definitely I'm super, super excited about. So yeah, man, those have been the three, Dev Diaries that we took a look at today. 2 Tinto Talks and 1 Tinto Maps. There we go, stare at this while I yap on for a minute or two more. And awesome stuff that we've seen today regarding the markets, regarding the armies, and regarding the maps specifically. Super, super exciting to see. The next video covering these, I don't know when it'll be, maybe in a week or two. I'll definitely slide the Tinto maps and the Tinto Talks in the same video. And obviously, if you want more EU5 news, make sure to subscribe to stay up to date. And if you want to check out these Dev Diaries for yourself, they will be in the description and or in the pinned comment. But yeah, super cool, man. I'm absolutely loving the political map mode, the way it looks. Lots of familiar colors from EU4, very opaque as well. And that's all I have to say about that. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like. It really helps out a lot. And if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of them. And you can become a member today and join the Discord. The link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU5 news video.